This episode of the Citadel Cafe is brought to you by listeners like you. Visit patreon.com/the Citadel Cafe to find out how you can become a patron and help make this show possible. This is the Citadel Cafe, episode number 300 for Wednesday, December 19th, 2018. My name is Joel Duggan, and the Citadel Cafe is where my friends and I hang out to talk about the geeky stuff that we are into. And boy, do I have a list of people to get to tonight. Joining us on his normal week of the month, Mr. Brockett is here.
Hi, how you doing? Happy 300.
Thanks, man. Megan Townsend is also back.
Hey, 300, yay!
And Lou and Ryan Murphy. Lou, hello.
Howdy. I remember episode 1. Does that make me old?
What? It makes me old. I don't know about you.
Oh, sorry. I just called the host old. I guess I'll leave now. Bye, everybody.
Shots fired.
Yeah,
Ryan's a frequent guest on the holiday episode, and it just so happens that the big 300 and the last episode of 2018 all wrap up on the same night, so I thought I would try to have everybody in. Unfortunately, Lou is under the weather and Ryan has got some other responsibilities tonight, so they can't stay for the whole show, but Brockett and Megan are going to kick around for the bulk of the episode, which I think is going to be awesome. And without hesitation, I thought because Ryan and Lou are on a limited timeline, I would dive right into the topic, which is one of the very seldom listener emails that we get on the Citadel Cafe. It doesn't happen very often, but when it does, it's always worth our time. And this one comes from Cosmic Dancer, who you might recognize in the Discord if you are a member of the Citadel Cafe. And she says, "Hi, firstly, congratulations on 300 shows. Why, thank you very much. I know I haven't been around for that long in terms of the show's history, but I'm glad to be around now. My question for everyone is, what was your TV or movie highlight of 2018? And what TV show or movie are you looking forward to most in 2019? Thanks so much for the great content so far. I'm looking forward to the next 300 episodes." Okay, now I feel old. Wishing you all the very best for Christmas and the new year. So thanks so much, Cosmic Dancer, for the email. That's awesome. And I think it's an excellent idea to wrap up the year with your favorite, content from 2018 and what you're looking forward to most in 2019. So if no one has any objections, I will pose the question to Lou first.
Well, I'll be honest. As for movies, I don't think I saw a bunch of movies I liked. I don't think I saw anything for 2018 that made me go, oh, this is amazing. I didn't run out and buy anything as soon as it came out on Blu-ray. Or that's usually a sign of something I need to have. That didn't happen this year. But for TV, I'm going to actually suggest something that I've been meaning to bring up on the show for a couple weeks. ABC has a show called The Rookie with Nathan Fillion, and it has become my favorite show to watch during the week. I hate cop dramas. I hate them. And it's about an older guy who has kind of a midlife crisis, and his wife leaves him and his son goes off to college, and he moves to LA and joins the LAPD. And it's kind of eye-opening because he goes on patrols, and they do everything from half the episode is filmed from their body cams, and you get to see a different perspective, and the cops aren't always dickheads, which is the portrayal in most TV, and they're not always portrayed as heroes. Everybody's flawed, and it's been a highlight for me every week.
That's awesome. I've seen the trailers and it looks really appealing, but I don't have cable, so I don't have to wait to watch it. But I like Nathan Fillion.
He absolutely sells the show. If it wasn't him, the show would suck.
Yeah, no. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, Lou's not wrong, and that Nathan Fillion really sells the show, because I saw Nathan Fillion was in it. It's like, oh, I got a bit into Castle and I fell off. Let's see if I can stick with this one, because I really really like Nathan Fillion. But Ashley, my wife, she's really into cop shows and procedurals and stuff, and I thought, okay, maybe this is a show, because very few come around where we can both watch and hold an interest. And The Rookie is one of those shows that we both enjoy. And to me, it's like, I was worried it was going to be too relationshipy, some stuff going on in the show, but they seem to have curb that in favor of more of the cop drama, which I prefer.
Yeah, the most recent episode, I think, is their mid-season finale. They did something I've never seen a cop show do before. Is he has to discharge his firearm and shoot an assailant who was going to point a gun at him, and they have to close down the scene. He has to retire his gun, and he is put in a jail cell and interrogated by IA until they are happy with it, and then he is sent home, and he is off of duty until further notice. And you see a lot of cop shows where someone discharges their gun and shoots somebody, and you go, oh, then tomorrow they're going to go out and catch cops. And it was like, no, he killed a guy, and now there's going to be an investigation.
Yeah, wow. It was an interesting sort of cliffhanger, and we were kind of shocked, like, oh, wow. At the start, like when he does it, it's like, oh, it's a cop show. You know, people get killed all the time. It's kind of like secondary drama in these shows, but in this one, it's like, oh yeah, I guess no one's really been killed, you know, before being fired at first, right? And that's sort of like, I mean, I'm not a cop, but I think that's part of the rule set. Like if you're getting fired at, you return fire. Right. But in this instance, that was not the case, and it was really interesting for them to portray that. So that show doesn't always lean on its weird, you know, relationship drama. It has a lot of the cop stuff. So it's about a 3/4, 1/4 sort of people drama, and more about the day-to-day life of cops and stuff. It's really cool.
And I think for next year, my big highlight is I'm ready to be done with Game of Thrones.
Not excited
There's
for
like a
it, but
chuckle
excited.
Amongst everyone. We're all just like, yes, all grizzled veterans. Let's get it over.
Can you even say that on this show, that you wanted Game of Thrones to be over? Because I'm pretty sure they're like working on like 16 spin-offs there.
All stuff I have zero interest in watching.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, I might check them out if I have an opportunity, but I don't think that I would be super inclined to dig into the spin-off
A casting call for that came across my desk a couple weeks ago.
Really?
It's too out of the way. Yeah, like, I mean, nothing that I'm good for, but it was like, hey, they're casting for this. And I was like, I can't. It's just nothing for my type whatsoever. So.
Yeah. Well, you could always, I mean, it's an excellent opportunity to travel. Come film in the middle of nowhere.
It's true. It's true.
Too funny.
But yeah, no, I'm excited for Game of Thrones a lot.
Yeah.
I guess I'm throwing mine in here. Who's going next?
Well, I was gonna ask Ryan.
For next year, I think that I'm like Lou, looking forward to the end of Game of Thrones. I, for one, am looking forward to the end of this Infinity War wait. You know, getting to see Endgame will be this capper, like, okay, we're done with all the secrecy, we can move on and get back to the Marvel movies where it's like you don't have to sit there and grind your teeth thinking what's going to happen. Like you can just go in, enjoy it, and not have to worry about the world ending. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
I definitely think this is going to be the last time Marvel does something like this. I think it's hurt them financially.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well,
haven't they made billions of dollars off that movie?
They have, but they haven't been able to run any ads for any of their other movies. So they're on the fence. They're on the fence on whether or not Captain Marvel and Spider-Man and stuff are going to be any good.
That's true.
Those movies are less than 6 months away, and we know nothing.
Yeah, because I remember I was really excited for Ant-Man and Wasp, and I just remember, because it was coming out after Infinity War. As soon as Infinity War landed, everyone was immediately like, well, how can they be showing this? Even the trailers, they're like, these trailers don't make any sense. And it's like, and so to your point, like people are immediately applying knowledge they have, even though logically they know this movie was made almost around the same time years ago, and obviously they have a plan for why this is here. Somebody didn't just switch the two names in the schedule for the MCU. But yeah, it is interesting that I was looking at what's coming out in 2019 and I was like, holy crap, there's more things than I thought. And I guess it's because they can't really get too far into it.
No.
Right.
I think like for Captain Marvel, they had to throw a blockbuster in and de-age two actors just to say like, okay, folks, it's in the 90s. Don't try and apply your Thanos theory here. Like this is, even though it is connected, right? Like, so yeah, I think you're right, Lou, in a sense that like even if you can't show that they're losing money, they're really losing out on the ability to market their films, which is the whole point of having a universe, is to have your movies continuously market other ones, right?
I have no doubt that both those movies are going to make money, but it's going to hamper all their other movies. I mean, because if Captain Marvel comes out and it isn't the blockbuster that Black Panther is, people are going to be like, why did this fail? And immediately they're going to try and blame it on things that has nothing to do with it. It's going to be to do with the fact that we didn't get a trailer until what, a month ago, 2 months ago?
Yeah, something like that. I think too, you have to be careful when you're comparing things to Black Panther, because I didn't know this until I was looking stuff up before the show. Black Panther outgrossed Infinity War domestically.
Yep. Yeah, it was crazy.
I didn't realize that. So, I mean, but even then, like, I mean, you'd have to compare. What would you compare Captain Marvel to in terms of expected gross? Thor, one of the Captain America, Civil War, like one of the standalones.
What I've heard is that they're expecting it to do as well as Iron Man or Captain America.
Yeah.
Really?
The first ones.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope it does well though, because I mean, like, it's about time that we had her in there. Like, I'm kind of bitter that it's been so long since Captain Marvel has even been a thing, because she is the strongest Avenger, and every other issue they've had up till now could have been dealt with easily if she'd been part of it before. I don't know. It's just weird comic book things that I get.
And I think that might be the issue though. Like if she's in the other conflicts and she just ends them, well then those aren't very interesting movies. Like
it's true.
It's one of those things where I'd rather see Captain America and the original Avengers struggle a little bit to try and work together and solve a problem, like Ultron, than have Captain Marvel just show up and just one punch the guy.
Right. Yeah.
And so it makes sense, but like still from like I don't know, like when you think of the comic books, I know they're not exactly the same as the comic books, but she's been there for so much of it, and to kind of be like, oh yeah, by the way, there's also this other Avenger we just forgot about until now. This is like story-wise a little bit off, but I'm still excited for it. I'm looking forward to it.
I'm not sure how they're going to weave it in, but I'm sure it'll make sense once it's all revealed. I'm excited to have another strong female lead in the Avengers.
Me too.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to get a Black Widow movie supposed to start filming next year.
Yeah.
See, we wanted that. I was talking about this with my roommate. We wanted that like years ago.
Yep.
And so we got Ant-Man at that. Like they announced Ant-Man, we're like, why? People have been asking for a Black Widow movie for forever, and now we're getting it. But I feel like it's a weird time because I think Scarlett Johansson has a lot of
baggage.
Baggage. Like she's taking on a lot of roles that she probably shouldn't be taking on right now. So I think it's kind of like tainted her reputation, I guess, a little bit as an actor, because she's selecting, like, I mean, she did Ghost in the Shell, which was terrible, and she should not have been that role in the first place. And now she's been announced as another role. I don't know if she's still doing it.
No, she passed on the other role.
Oh, did she? Oh, good, because I know it was a huge thing where she had accepted it, and it was, or she was in very, very high talks to be this role that she really should not have been doing. Or she was playing like a trans character or something, and it was just, there's a lot of discourse online for it. So I don't know if hopefully it'll kind of redeem her a little bit. So but still it's weird timing.
That's the vibe that I normally get too, is that as a character, Black Widow, like, sure, I can see the draw for a movie, but then whenever I talk to people about Avengers, usually there's kind of a murmur as to whether or not they like Scarlett Johansson in that role enough for a standalone film. Like they want a character film, but they don't necessarily want a Scarlett Johansson film, which I mean, they're one and the same now. Like, I don't think you could avoid that, but
it's just, for me, Black Widow, and I don't think it's to a fault of Scarlett Johansson per se, but she was one of those characters that was introduced so early without her own defining role that she's been changed and morphed by all of her appearances in every movie. Like, she first shows up in Iron Man 2 and she's kind of mysterious. And then there's that vague sort of Scarlett Johansson, Captain America semi-like romance, it seems like, in Winter Soldier. But then that goes away, and then there's like Hulk, and then Hulk's all about her. But then so it's like, I feel badly for the character because she's sort of been forced into a bunch of different like B-plot like points to sort of fit other things, and it's just such a disservice to one of the strongest characters of the original
I
Avengers,
agree.
and it happens to be the female that's so defined by all of her relationships with these men. Which, yeah, to Megan's point, I think like if she had had a movie much earlier, I think she could have come in. Like right now, if you come in as Captain Marvel, people are going to be like, "Oh, I know what she's about." Boom. But like now, if like Black Widow spins off, people are going to be like, "Well, we've seen so much of her do." It's kind of weird and ambiguous sometimes.
Part of me is hoping it's sort of like an origin story for her, because I mean, unless you read the comic books, aside from the little tidbits of information they sprinkled throughout there, Joss Whedon and his terrible "oh, I'm a monster because I can't have kids" storyline aside, I think it'd be really interesting to see kind of who she was as a kid and how she kind of became the way she was and how she got involved with Shield.
I know one of the original scripts was was based off a reference her and Hawkeye have, where they keep referencing some like place like Egypt or something. Budapest. That the original script for the film was supposed to be her and him in Budapest, and that was supposed to be the film. And
I would be so down for that. Everyone wanted to know what happened in Budapest.
Yeah, and that was one of the original scripts being floated around a couple years ago, and then it just kind of got scrapped.
That's such a bummer, because their friendship, their relationship as friends is one of my favorite. I think in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, like the first Avengers film with their jokey banter back and forth, I lived for it. I want more of that, and I'm kind of sad that he wasn't in the most recent Avengers movie. I know why. Like I know he's going to be in the next one, but that banter I really miss with the two of them.
I feel like one of the things I really liked about them in the first Avengers is that like they're the two without the superpowers. Like,
yes,
I mean minus Fury, but like they're the two out in the field. They're going like, we have to go where?
They're just highly skilled, which is really amazing.
Ryan, as far as looking back at 2018, was there anything that stood out to you as like a turning point? Like what was I mean, we know that you're looking forward to Avengers Endgame, but was there anything else either on TV or the big screen that really caught you in 2018?
Yeah, I didn't get out to the theaters an awful lot, mainly because of having two small children and whatnot. Although I am looking forward to getting out more. Like I'll talk, how would I talk about a movie that I did like that probably no one else is going to bring up on the show that I saw last month with Caden, my soon-to-be 3-year-old. We went to the movies. It's Stars and Strollers. So for those purists out there being like, you took your 3-year-old to the movies, ruining my cinema experience. No, it was a specific like 1 p.m. showing where we can go in, we can be as loud as we want. There's a bunch of kids and stuff. And we saw The Grinch. So the new Grinch film from Illumination. And I know, again, Illumination has a lot of baggage, Minions. Yeah. But it was really good. It was a good film. Like, as far as The Grinch goes, like, everybody looks back at the 66 cartoon as a classic. And, like, but it's super freaky. You show a 3-year-old that, he's going to have nightmares.
It's true, absolutely.
Exactly. And let's not get started on the Jim Carrey one. I saw an article, this is a little blue, but I saw an article on Slash Film that had popped up on my Twitter, and it was like, an opinion article on how that Grinch movie with Ron Howard, that directed by Ron Howard and has Jim Carrey in it, is just about how there's this one specific character is just trying to get it on with the Grinch. And I'm like, see, that movie is creepy because I didn't even know it was creepy for that. I knew it was creepy because it's a live action Grinch running around making sounds and stuff. But I
guess I was just really desensitized as a child.
I don't know, man. It's really creepy. Like, and it brings a whole new. I hope they never release anything for that new Sonic movie because Jim Carrey as Robotnik is going to be probably just as bad as the Grinch. But anyways, the Grinch from Illumination, it's computer animated, obviously, and they just they do a really good job with it. They take the basic story and they kind of add a little bit of backstory to the Grinch. Nothing crazy, just like some sprinkle of he was an orphan here and 50-year drop living outside of town in a hill, like just these little things that they drop in to kind of make the character seem a little more relatable. And also he does have this like working relationship with the town where he will go into town. He's still like a Grinch, but he goes into town, he interacts with the people. He's not this mysterious, you know, weird old green guy that lives up in the hill that no one really knows. He's not a legend. He's just a citizen, right? So it was a really good film. It was funny. Caden really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it, and like it just goes to show that like movies made for kids, it's not like a Pixar quality thing where you're like, oh my gosh, that was amazing for adults and kids. But sometimes it's nice to just turn your brain off and watch something that like it's not going to win any Oscars, but Benedict Cumberbatch is the Grinch, and he's a really good Grinch. I don't know. I really liked it. I'm sure a lot of people. I don't think it's getting good reviews, but it is a computer animated Grinch film. So
I've got a seconded vote for the Grinch with Hammond Chamberlain. He wasn't able to make it tonight, but we did our holiday special on Comics Coast to Coast last Thursday, and we started talking about Santa Claus, but eventually got into a couple of Christmas specials and what we were looking forward to watching this season. And he had taken his youngest to go see the Grinch, and he said same thing. He said it was really good and really cute. You know, like it's not silly, but just it's a nice, simple, cute, you know, family safe film, you know?
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And you know, when you want to go to the movies, like I want to go see the new Spider-Man movie. Caden wants to go see the new Spider-Man movie, but I think he might be a little young for it. But the Grinch was perfect. And again, like just the Mario franchise is in good hands, because I think if Illumination's making that Mario film that they announced, I think it'll be a good transition.
I didn't know there was a Mario. Oh, they're making a cartoon movie, like an animated Mario film?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's the first time it's the first time Nintendo has let anybody handle the franchise since their original crappy movie.
No, we don't talk about that.
The live action movie with
There was no movie in the past. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Hey, I can prove it.
Bob
I have it on
Hoskins or something?
DVD.
No. There is. It's an illusion. There was no movie.
And there definitely wasn't a sequel comic book. I don't know what you're talking about.
Definitely not. There wasn't.
Bunch of video game nerds. Wow.
Illuminate. Well, they got the Nintendo. And there's definitely a one-upsman game now that Disney's. Sorry, I'm a huge Disney fan, so I'm an apologist for the machinations that they provide. But ever since they've essentially just like smacked the world with Disney, Star Wars, and Marvel now in like their Infinity Gauntlet of stuff, it's like interesting to see how other companies are now like putting themselves together. Warner's has like DC and like Harry Potter and that sort of stuff. So is it Illumination is the name of the company, for them to be able to do that with Nintendo, who are very, like you say, they're just like, you know, very smart and very protective of their stuff. That's interesting.
There was a rumor too that Netflix was getting the rights to The Legend of Zelda to do an animated show as well, but I don't know where that ended up.
Oh my goodness!
It was the interesting thing about Illumination and Nintendo is that I guess I don't know his last name, but I know his first name is like Chris, and he's one of the head guys. I don't say just Chris because I know him personally, just because I can't remember his last name. But he's one of the higher ups at Illumination, and him and Miyamoto, I guess, met a couple times and had conversations, and that's one of the main reasons that, you know, Nintendo's partnered up with Illumination, because they feel like that's the only way that they can get that movie done, because they trust the guy. And I think that goes a long way when you have a protective company like Nintendo saying we trust somebody that doesn't work for us. You know, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, before Brockett and Megan and I dive into our predictions and picks for 2018 and 19, I guess I don't want to speak for you, but if Lou, if you want to bail because of the whole head cold, then yeah, I think we should let you get out of here. Thanks so much for stopping by, man, and have a Merry Christmas, and I hope you're feeling better soon.
Thank you.
Feel better, Lou.
Yeah.
Take it easy.
Happy holidays.
Ryan, are you out of here as well?
Yeah, I should probably jet. I smell cookies upstairs that probably need to be tested, but just for the safety of all those else involved,
Quality assurance officer. Yep.
I mean, it is on the title.
It's spelled DAD.
One of the perks.
One of the perks.
Well, dude, thanks so much for coming by. It's good to talk to you, and we'll have to have you on for a full episode in the new year.
Yeah, thanks. It was great to be on. It was great to podcast with Megan and Brockett and you as well, Joel and Lou. You know, so I hope everybody is ready for Christmas and has a fantastic holiday season. a happy December and great weekend as well, I guess.
Thank you.
All
You
wrapped
too.
into one.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Cheers,
Okay.
man.
Happy
Bye,
holidays.
everyone.
Bye.
Oh,
Then there
and
were three.
And then there were three. You stole my
Yeah.
line.
Sorry.
Great minds think alike.
Great
Wow.
minds.
We are on the same page tonight.
You guys are the Hawkeye and Black Widow.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
I guess so.
I'll take that. I guess I have to
I'll
have a
take
mohawk.
that. It's yeah.
I need more
What?
hair if I'm going to do a
Oh
mohawk.
yeah, he has a mohawk now.
Have you seen the?
I haven't.
The new trailer.
I have. I've gone. I think we've talked about this in the past, Joel. But I've gone. Well, partly because I just never get to see TV with the newborn, but the other half is by purpose to avoid trailers. But in-game trailers, I hear is just so vague enough while also so like atmospheric that I probably am gonna watch it. But
Yeah.
I have not. Yeah, I have not busted it out to see it yet. So I know. I guess there's enough tidbits in there that people are already like making mega speculation.
It's not. It's a teaser, which is why I watched it. For this movie, I may even avoid the trailer. Although I don't know, the Infinity War trailers didn't really. No, having seen the trailers and seen the movie, Infinity War trailers did not spoil anything. They just kind of got you excited for a bunch of people running at each other. Like this,
They did. It's true.
That's really all it was.
True.
They didn't reveal anything,
Yeah.
and that's what I mean. This is basically just a roster list. It's essentially just a hey, by the way, in case you forgot, here's who didn't die in the last one, and they just they show who's who and who's where, and it's mostly actually a Black Widow monologue. It's this conversation she's having with Rogers, and that she's kind of laying. Like summing up their situation, very militaristic.
Man,
but
her role always constantly changing. In that group.
It's true all the time.
Yeah, but because essentially, I mean, from what I can gather in the trailer and what I remember of Infinity War, she and Captain America are essentially Shield. Like that's it.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
There's no more Shield because Fury's gone.
Fury's gone. Hill's gone, right?
And Hill's gone. Yeah. There's a lot. They're it. They are Shield at this point. I mean, well, as much Shield as you can get because it kind of disbanded at the end of what, Civil War? Is that what it was?
No, Winter Soldier. I think
Winter Soldier
is when Shield
disbanded.
Yeah, when they took it all down and stuff like that. I haven't watched that part of the TV show because I think they get into more detail as to what actually happens and how it all.
Yeah,
down,
that's true.
I'm several seasons behind. I only watched like the first season, maybe season and a half of
I couldn't get into
Shield.
it. I tried sitting down and watching Agents of Shield, and I just couldn't.
Well, it has all the same problems
as
a television show that has 26 episodes, right? Like you're so used to these concise blockbuster stories with Marvel films and Marvel Netflix shows, but then you go into network television and it's like 26 episodes when it should be 13, and you're like, I no longer care. About that kind of stuff. And the worst thing is sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I think the thing that got me the most was the whole like Daisy, whatever his face is.
Oh yeah.
Daisy / Sky, and whatever his name is. The only thing I know him from, he was in a video game called Until Dawn. That's the other thing I know him from.
Yeah.
He was Mike. Who's Mike in Until Dawn?
Yeah.
But their whole relationship just seems real weird.
Yeah.
Just real weird to me. I don't know.
I haven't seen enough, but I watched enough of a later episode or like clips, and I was like, wait, things were happening enough. I'm like, I guess somebody died and somebody switched sides and somebody else has powers. And now I'm like, well, like, I guess they're not all just like people, a bunch of like super cops now, where I guess they're not just all like mega cops. Now they're like super cops or something.
Yeah.
So I was really confused, but yeah, I never got into it either.
Yeah, it was hard to keep track of. I felt like, and I just don't have the mental energy to sit down and like watch something weekly. I kind of liked how it tied in for the movies though. Like whatever happened in like the movies was also referenced in the show.
Yeah.
So when Shield was essentially blown up, more or less, they referenced it in the show, and that's like the one. I think that's kind of where I checked out.
I'm sure they don't have the budget, but it would have been super cool if Chris Evans hadn't been able to make a cameo. Like that would have been really would have tied things together. It probably would have at that point in Avengers and Captain America. They would have looked at the price tag and been like, nope, sorry, we can't. We can't have him stick his big toe on the on film.
Just in case one thing goes out. Well, that's why I was always so mad about Like sometimes there's like actors too big for TV, so they don't do these things. Then you get somebody like a Colston, like that actor who can go from the big screen to the small screen or whatever. But first off, it's a new golden age of television. So don't even give me like the number of quote unquote A-listers that are now on TV shows is like astronomical. And then on top of that, it always bothers me when you have a built-in situation like, and I've totally lost track of them, but like Grant Gustin is probably the best DC cast person, and they do not do a good job of casting people, and yet they totally just like were like no. And then I got Ezra Miller, who is fine, but I never liked that version of the Flash. And at the same time, you have a guy who can easily bounce from TV to movie, and then you have that webbed world. But obviously, because of how terrible Warner's and DC handles their franchises, it's all just a mess anyway. But
I was disappointed that they couldn't, for whatever reason, get Grant Gustin, because like he's a better actor. I
don't dislike Ezra Miller, but I find he's a little bit too spastic.
Yeah,
and I don't think as Barry, I don't think he works.
No,
I don't think of Barry as being like la, 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 like kind of like crazy. I think of him more like, excitable but logical.
Yeah.
And I don't get that from Ezra's Barry at all.
Not so socially awkward. That's the part. That's the part of the Flash that I didn't like. The part of the Flash that I bring forward from the DC cartoons, having watched so many of them, it's that he's excitable, but he's outgoing. He's not he's not the reverse. Like he's not introverted or shy or socially awkward. He's almost too social, right? Like talks too fast, gets in your personal space, and then he's gone. Like just that kind of thing. But yeah, I don't know. I'm looking forward to, to talk about what it gets into 2018 by a hair, but I am looking forward to Aquaman. I'm hearing more about it and seeing some people who are, granted, they're television personalities that are interviewing the cast, so they're going to say nice things, but like Jimmy Fallon was over the moon. Like he was just like, he couldn't fit it into words how he felt about this film. He's like, it's just crazy. Like he was just over the top about it. So I don't have any expectations for an overly deep plot. I understand it's going to be a lot of origin story. I'm just hoping that one, it's not too long, and two, that the him in the Aquaman suit is not the last 30 seconds of the film. Like
it is. That whole shot is like has everyone seen the first season of Daredevil, the TV show?
Yeah.
No, but it's okay.
Okay. I just knew as soon as there was talk of it, like the very last shot of the entire first season would be him finally putting on the suit. And sure enough, it was. And it was like Smallville, where like he finally puts on the suit, but for the last shot of the series. And I'm like, so as soon as I saw that in the trailer, because Aquaman, I'm enough on the fence where I'm like, all right, I got to see something to know if I'm going to watch any of this. And when they showed that, I was like, oh, that's a really great like bumper before the credits roll. Like he emerges as like whatever. I don't know. I think everybody in the world can pretty much guess exactly what the plot of that film is going to end up being. But isn't it? I thought it was fascinating that there's such good buzz about Aquaman, and I know Wonder Woman kind of came before Justice League, but essentially came after the nightmare that was Batman versus Superman. And it's like DC's done the opposite, where they're not building up their characters through individual movies into a super team. They went out and made a garbage like world, just absolute trash. So the expectations are so low that now as they pull the origins out of it, people are like, these are interesting characters. And like, I feel like by the time they do a Justice League 2, it'll be, oh, this is the brilliance of it. No, it's just I don't know. It's so weird. And Jason
you summed it up so perfectly.
I mean, that's
exactly what it is.
Because people are legitimately like excited for Aquaman, and now I'm like, yeah, but at the same time, if we had seen previews for a Jason Momoa Aquaman before they ever did Justice League, people would be like, I don't know about this stuff. But now people are like, I saw enough of him. He seems like he's got it, down. And so I'm just like you guys, I'm legitimately intrigued. I'm like, hey, sure, let's do this.
Yeah. I'm just intrigued because it's actually Aquaman. So I find that out of all of the Justice League, that Aquaman and Wonder Woman are usually the two that are like shoved aside the most. And Aquaman mostly because he's like, oh, he's a guy who can talk to fish. That's it. That's you know, and for most people, like that's what sums him up. But there's a couple like versions of the comic book where he like cuts off his own hand to save a kid. Now he's going around with like a hook hand, and he's like fierce as all hell. Like he's one of those underrated, really, really powerful superheroes that gets some flack because his power seems kind of silly. But I think they made it, and also he's blonde and wears, you know, scaly tights, so it doesn't look super great. But when you get Jason Momoa, who looks like a shit brick house, you know, being all beef and you know, Hawaiian and was once Khal Drogo, like that's a pretty huge draw for a lot of people, I think. And casting wise, I thought it was amazing because it was nothing that I expected. Because it's so far removed from the comic books and from the DC animated films that I think it's enough to draw in general audiences, but also good enough because he's already proven that he has a lot of really decent acting chops with, you know, Battlestar Galactica and Game of Thrones, that even, you know, diehard fanboys are gonna say, okay, yeah, okay, it's fine.
Yeah,
but I'm stoked for it. I'm really, really excited for it.
Yeah,
I'm really worried about Amber Heard's hair.
Yeah.
That wig looks awful. If there's
Just-
one thing I have to complain about, it's so red.
Like why
It's
couldn't they
so
just give
red.
her?
And it looks really nice when it's wet.
Yeah.
I don't know why it's so bright when it's dry. It doesn't make any sense.
No, I don't understand
But,
why they
you
why they
know-
just give her a I mean, if the actor didn't want to dye her hair, then give her a red, you know, red wig, but just have it be natural red hair. Like make her
Yeah.
a redhead from, you know, as if she's from Ireland, not this like
I
dyed,
know.
you know, it's
Like,
I don't know. I
yeah,
feel like it's
fire engine
overcompensation
reds,
for
it's
how
like-
much color was sucked out of Justice League and Batman v Superman and like all the
There's
other
no-
films.
Yeah,
they really
There's-
have.
There's
it's
no
either
color.
you go ham or there's no color at all. It's like there's
Yeah.
no middle ground. It's either none or everything.
Yeah.
That's true.
I was
It's-
thinking the other
it's
day
extreme.
I watched a couple of clips from Henry Cavill on Instagram. He's actually quite funny on social media, and it was something about his dog. But has he stepped down from Superman? Is he out?
I have no idea. The internet tells me one thing. Jason Momoa tells me another.
Right.
I'm friends with Jason Momoa. He tells me all the time. No, but no, there was this whole thing. I don't know. Jason Momoa, I think, is just he probably realizes this is probably the best it's going to get, because either Aquaman does terribly or it does incredibly well, but then the next movie everyone's going to expect to either be as good or it's going to fail. So like this is the best time for him. So
Mhm.
he's like all over the places on SNL, and like I read somewhere that he was like, oh no, Henry Cavill's still Superman. And I'm like, is he like talking to other people, or is he just straight up just telling reporters like, look, I talked to Henry and he's going to stick around, and if he doesn't, I'm Jason Momoa. So I'm just, you know, like he's beefy, but I'm like a crazy man. So I'm just going to I mean, he did a war chant dance at the friggin' premiere of Aquaman. Like this is a guy that's like both very cool uncle and then also like the boy that you don't want your daughter to bring to Thanksgiving. It's like the strangest thing. Like I don't understand what's gonna come out of his mouth. It's either gonna be like grungy or it's gonna be like some goofball, and I'm like, I don't know how to read you, bro.
Yeah.
I
I'm
think he's like
fascinated.
perpetually high all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I feel that. I
He's
feel
just
it.
real stoned.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. I don't know. I know he's really focusing. Henry Cavill, I mean, is really focusing on The Witcher right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that terrible wig as well. So
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, it was a first look, so I'm not sure if it's like, let's put this out here to gauge audience reaction and then
Mhm.
fix from there. Part of me
Yeah,
is
that's
hoping
true.
it's that.
Me too.
Well,
But
if
you know,
they've
if
learned
there's-
anything from Mission Impossible, it's, you know, don't mess. Like don't dye his hair, don't cut his hair.
No,
Yeah.
If he's gonna be Superman again, he has to be 1, clean shaven, and 2, real hair.
Well, I just think that's the stupidest clause to sign in a contract. It's like, no, you can't shave your facial hair. You can't do it. So we
yeah.
have to spend more money to CG it out of you. He's a hairy dude. He
Yeah.
could probably grow that back
He
in
can
like
grow
2
that.
days.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the issue was. I really don't understand that. It's
No.
like a dumb clause. It's like silly.
It's
But
just
yeah, I don't know. I've heard rumors that he is stepping down, but I don't know if that's. I think at this point they're just rumors.
Hmm.
But I'm sure they'll
It's
be.
just-
You know, if it's going to be announced, it'll be announced. So
Yeah. Yeah. Because I mean, I
It was
for the
just-
life of me could not figure out who they could get to replace him.
I'm
He's
sure there's
just
somebody.
yeah. but he was just finally, I felt like by the time I saw Justice League, my expectation was so rock bottom that I like enjoyed it fine.
Mhm.
But like he finally, I felt, was getting enough of the character that I could enjoy, like watching my favorite superhero portrayed by him. Even though like they just abandoned the Clark Kent stuff, and I just accept that for the Snyderverse. But like he was finally like the sort of wry wit to him that he had with like the Flash Somo fight, and then later, and I was like, okay, I can kind of get into some of what they're finally able to do, possibly Joss Whedon's rewrite. But like, it would suck if like it's the same thing where I felt like Daniel Craig. I mean, Casino Royale, I thought was a fantastic movie, but like by the time Daniel Craig, I felt like was really James Bond. It was like, oh, okay, he's done, and you're like, well, what the hell, dude? Like, I'm finally like,
Yeah.
like, you know, and that's why people like Jason Momoa and Gal Gadot, you have to put in movies right now because they have encapsulated the character. They've done a great job, and they are the character now. Like, you don't have to worry about them getting more reps. Like, I think Ezra Miller as a Flash movie right now would be very shaky because I think he's still, or maybe the writers still need to just figure out exactly what they want to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially since he's so different from every other iteration of the Flash that we've had. I mean, like, I think they're trying to go for animated DC Flash, who is kind of really similar to Ezra's Flash, but also like I think more people are familiar with the TV show.
Yeah,
So it's you got to find like this weird blend of it, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, so, I have a funny feeling I might know what the answer is, but Megan, what are you looking forward to most in 2019?
Oh, take a wild guess. You can say it.
Wonder Woman, perhaps.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Of which we know nothing.
Yeah, we know nothing. You know what? I don't care at this point. I really don't. It's happening again, and I didn't think we'd ever get a first one, let alone a second. So I'm stoked about it. Now, like, I'm still, you know, I know it's probably not going to be a perfect movie. The first one wasn't a perfect movie, but for what it was pretty great. But yeah, no, like I'm actually really excited for it. I am also really stoked for someone said it on the show notes here. Avengers Endgame. I'm actually really excited for that too. Like mostly because I think, is it wrapping up the series? I feel like it is. I feel like it's now coming to the point where everything's being wrapped up.
Yeah, that's. I think it's the end of that particular arc, and if anything goes forward, it's other films like Captain Marvel or Ant-Man or those kind of things. Because I think I know Chris Evans has said that he's done.
Yeah, but that's also a comic book thing too, because canonically, I know Bucky takes over as Cap.
Right, exactly. So then I'm wondering, like, is Thor also, like, is Chris Hemsworth also done as Thor? Because I mean, I don't need.
I had heard that he was.
Yeah.
But he then, because I forget his name, but the director or writer for Thor 3, he had such a fun time that he kind of like Harrison Forded him. He like now loves it and like is rejuvenated as far as I've read.
Oh.
And Chris Hemsworth, I think, because we've seen him in like Ghostbusters and these things where he's funny, and they finally allow after like, you know, in Thor Ragnarok, like he embraced he like pretty much became that version of Thor that we kind of got to see in the Avengers movies that they kind of abandoned for Thor Dark World when he was trying to be like stoic again. And like, I don't know, I wonder, it'll probably come down to contracts. It always comes down to that sort of stuff. Because I know Robert Downey Jr. for a while was rumored that he was done, but now it's like, I think that like he's still sort of around. But like, yeah, I think at this point it's pretty obvious that people are as supportive of other characters that are by no means smaller, but like, you know, Captain Marvel, Black Panther, Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, and then you know, Ant-Man want to get together, and the Wasp all want to get together to fight in a big team up movie. I think at this point it's way less risky, because, you know, the only problem becomes like, well, how do you know, the Avengers movies were always like propelling towards this other arc. So I think some people will probably be a little concerned about what could happen, but
well,
there are a lot of arcs.
Yeah,
but...
what's the storyline they're aiming at with Captain Marvel there? The Skrulls, what's that called? It's something war. The
Kree.
Sorry,
well,
she's Kree, but aren't the Skrulls the bad guys?
yeah.
But I thought
I think it's the Skrull War.
is it called the Skrull War? Okay,
I
like the
think.
whole event has it. Like I know friends that are better versed in comics than me, and I thought that event had like that whole series of things had.
They're super enemies. I know that.
Yeah.
I just figured the only thing keeping them away from the Skrulls was their quote unquote, I guess, were tied enough to Fantastic Four when they didn't have rights that they might not have been able to use them the way they have with mutants. But I have no idea if that changed or not.
Will that change when they buy the film rights from 20th Century Fox, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Because when I was perusing through a list of stuff coming in 2019, just to kind of refresh my memory, I saw the Dark Phoenix, and I was like, "Oh, right, there's still X-Men stuff that can happen, and
New Mutants,
New
Mutants,
and New Mutants,
well.
yeah." So
which
I
is very
forget about that.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird that things like Venom and the X-Men still kind of exist outside the Marvel.
Yeah,
it is really
universe.
weird. It's really strange. Well, because and X-Men, what was that one we got a couple? Was it like 2 years ago now? The one with Sophie Turner as Jane.
Apocalypse.
Apocalypse, yeah.
Apocalypse.
Yeah. Jean Grey, yeah.
She was. I really liked her as Jean. I thought she was really, really, really good Jean.
Yeah.
I'd like to see her do more of that, and I think she teased at one point something about Phoenix.
Yep.
Like I think I watched an interview or something with Vanity Fair, and someone was like Dark Phoenix, and she was just like, I don't know, but she kind of had that look where she was like, but I do know.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that's a thing because that'd be awesome.
Early,
so great.
Yeah,
it is really early.
Yeah,
but
they barely established her as Jean, and they're already going to give her biggest arc ever. It's like, man, that's really, really tough.
And I do like the cast because it's a bunch of unknowns, right? Like, I mean, Storm in Apocalypse.
She was awesome.
Is it Scott Summers? Is that Cyclops?
Scott, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
But like, and then, I mean, Sophie Turner's not an unknown, but I mean, a young, new version of Jean Grey. So like all those actors and characters as 20-year-olds to me is like, where 25-year-olds is really appealing compared to, these established actors. Like, not that I don't like Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, but like, it's cool to be able to move on and like to see other actors kind of take on these roles, especially with, a rich kind of timeline where you can kind of pop back into the 80s or 90s and have other actors play and younger actors play them. I don't know if I can't remember his name. He's the guy that plays Magneto as a young Magneto in the new
Fassbender.
Fassbender, yeah. Has he said that he's going to continue as Magneto in anything that comes up, or I haven't heard anything?
I've heard McAvoy's name tossed around, but I haven't heard Fassbender, and I don't know if that is. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, because again, I like them both. Like they're good.
Yeah,
they're good at that age, like to be older than all the young kids, but still an established kind of like been around the block mutant sort of thing.
Yeah.
I think Michael Fassbender should just go ahead and try and be James Bond, but that's just me.
I agree.
I just thought Magneto hunting down Nazis was his audition, just like Daniel Craig's was doing the movie Layer Cake. And I was like, I don't need to see more of this. Just sign Fassbender up. He will be the next Bond. That's fine. I don't know what your rules are about Welsh versus English versus whatever, because they've always argued. They're always like, it's never been played by an Englishman. I'm like, dude, Batman, we're not Batman now. Well, yeah, Christian Bale, Superman, Spider-Man, all of our American heroes, which again, I don't care who plays them because they play them great, but it's like they're all played by different people. So it's very funny that in the UK, they're always like, well, it's not like he, it's a Scot who's playing like an Englishman. I'm like, oh, whatever, guys. Like, actors are good. They're hired to portray things that
they're pretend. They're basically doing pretend. It's fine, relax. There was a woman who was getting after Idris Elba because someone had said, Idris Elba, like, you should play Bond, and he was like, I'd be down to play Bond, and someone was like, no, Bond is a white British man, and everyone's like, what? I mean, yeah, he is, but like at the same time, why does that have to define anything? Like, you could very easily. I mean, Aquaman looks totally different from how he's portrayed and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
So why not be able to cast Idris Elba as James Bond? I feel like that would be a really cool new take on the character. He'd be so good at it.
Yeah.
I feel like he needs his own movie. Like,
Oh, yeah.
He needs to do something else. Like, that's kind of
Yeah.
They
in
tried to
comic
with Dark
book world.
Tower.
Yeah.
But,
Yes, but I
that was a shame.
I'm thinking
That's-
I'd love to see
so
it.
delegated to the sidelines and Ragnarok.
I want to see Idris Elba as Green Lantern. I think that would be
Yeah.
as far as a superhero.
Oh, as John Jones.
Not John Jones. John. What's his last name?
John Stewart. John Stewart.
Yeah,
John
Stewart as a
John Jones is Martian Manhunter.
He's Martian Manhunter. Although he could be a good. Yeah.
He would be a good Martian Manhunter, though.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that
Ooh.
too. I can see him in both. I'm not sure who I would cast as a Martian Manhunter. I actually, you know what?
Can they do that though? Can you work for two separate companies?
Oh, I have
Like,
no
can
idea.
you work for DC versus Marvel? Is that a thing that you're allowed to do?
He's dead in Marvel, so it doesn't matter.
Well, for now, that may be a thing that may change with the whole. I don't know.
What
We'll see.
What was the name of that show that Pacey from Dawson's Creek was in? That was about dimensions and time travel and stuff like that.
Fringe?
Fringe. So who was the African-American FBI agent in Fringe?
Oh, God. Was that the one? Was it Omar Epps?
I think it might be.
No.
No.
I'm gonna. I just sound
I'm looking
terrible.
up real
because I'm
quick.
looking it up, whoever
Lance
it is.
Reddick is his name.
Fuck.
That's who I would cast as Martian Manhunter because of the way that he delivers his lines. But Lance Reddick is just he speaks very slowly and precisely, and I just think he would be perfect as a Martian Manhunter.
Yeah. I think. Yeah, that'd be great.
So for me, looking forward to 2019, I'm going to deviate slightly from Marvel, even though it's still Disney. And that is, I was reminded because there was rumors of a new trailer dropping today that I checked before the show and I haven't seen anything. But Star Wars Episode 9 comes out in 2019. It's a
I had to check it too.
It's a full year from now, and it's a long way away. But like we finally get to see the end of like the Daisy Ridley, Adam Driver, arc. And I'm also excited to remind people that J.J. Abrams is back in the director's chair, not Rian Johnson.
Man.
So because I know on this show that I've ranted and I've given The Last Jedi a really hard time, and I've watched it again since, and it's not my favorite, but I still hold out hope that because it's the third in the trilogy, because they may have, knock on wood, learned from mistakes, the fact that J.J. Abrams is back directing, isn't hamstrung by trying to introduce people back into Star Wars, like.
But my problem with J.J. Abrams is he doesn't finish things. Name a single TV show or movie franchise he started that he finished. And ending something is way harder than beginning it.
Yeah.
And to me, everyone's always so excited. J.J. Abrams is going to come in. Well, guess what? Origin movies sell. They're a reason why they keep rebooting things, because the first movie does the best, and then the second one usually can top the first one, but it's because of expectations. Then the second one invariably doesn't live up to somebody's expectations, even though we can all agree the second Tobey Maguire Spider-Man was way better than first. But I've heard arguments that it was not as good, and I think that's stupid. But still, like, eventually that happens. But like, I need to see JJ do it. Like, I understand, like, everyone's like excited he came back. But my problem, and this is funny because I'm a huge Last Jedi supporter, is like The Force Awakens was a very great movie, tons of fun, that was built 75% off of all the other franchises. So it was extremely cozy. It was wrapped in like little plastic foil, like very protected and very precious because they didn't want to ruin the whole franchise immediately. So that was incredibly easy for JJ to do. Now go out, like just like when he did Super 8, which I also thought was great, but it was also a really great E.T. remake. Like, I just think that the man needs to be able to go out and do something absolutely original without entirely just like, because I do appreciate people who make like motifs to other films and like there's like Guillermo del Toro with like Lady in the Water. Oh God,
Shape of Water?
Just Shape of Water. Like he like embraced that genre of film and that type of film, but did like enough. Like, I understand, like, and some directors do that really well, and JJ's one of those guys, but Del Toro has also shown me that he can go out and do something completely original. And so I just need to see that from JJ. So everyone getting excited And I'm not saying like Joel, like you're saying like, oh my God, JJ's like gonna save the whole franchise. I've just heard it from particularly friends that are all like, Last Jedi was trash. I wish it didn't exist. Thank God JJ's back. And I'm like, look, guys, like George Lucas created this whole franchise. He wrote one of the films, and then like it was great. And then he did not do the other two. And Empire Strikes Back is to me the best. And then when we finally gave it back to the original guy, the creator, he went and made 3 terrible prequels.
Mm-hmm.
And that was all essentially original and different material. So I don't know. I'm actually more concerned about the ending because I just don't know, like, are they going to honor what Rian Johnson did? Or are they going to try and do this sort of halfy kind of like, well, look, we're going to kind of taper off because so many people were so angry about stuff. I'm like, you got to own what you did, man. Like,
which is what Rian Johnson didn't do. Like that was my biggest beef about Last Jedi, is that JJ, while he was hamstrung by, the requirements of attempting to, reboot the excitement for the series, not reboot the excitement, but just to move the series forward, but in monochrome, in small amounts, Rian Johnson just didn't respect any of it and just kind of completely went sideways with it. And I think that J.J. Abrams is a good enough director to be able to say, okay, well, this is the box that I have to sit in. How can I make it look nice and end it in a way that works? I appreciate you mentioning that. I'm not saying that J.J. Abrams is like the best director and is going to save the series. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that J.J. Abrams is not Rian Johnson. That's my point. Is that if it was directed by Rian Johnson again, I would be very concerned. I would be just like, I would go only because I would sort of have to, just because the inner Star Wars fan of me wouldn't let me not go. But it's one of those things where like I'm really tentative. Like I'm going into Star Wars Episode 9 similar to how I went into Justice League. Like my expectations are low, and I hope that they're blown out of the water because I really want them to focus on what's the dynamic between I'm blanking on their names, Rey and Kylo Ren. Like I want to see where that's going. I don't care about cameos. I don't care about other actors. I don't care about people that have been in the series. I don't want to see another Ghost Yoda. Like I want to see what's happening with those characters, and if they can focus on the here and now, then I think it'd be good. I don't know what they're going to do with Finn. I'm kind of done with all of that. But
see, that makes me sad because I feel like Finn had so much potential as a character, and I feel like with the second film, it kind of, I don't know. I'm just like, why do I care? And Poe, it's like, why do I care now? I'm supposed to care about these 2 characters, but I really don't. I mean, we always knew that Rey was like the main focus of it, and we always knew that Kylo Ren was going to be like the main antagonist. But I'm like, we also don't really know who she is yet either. And God, I will kill someone if I don't find out who that is. Like I don't like it when big franchise movies like this will like hint at something and then they don't completely explain this whole situation. Like usually there's hints of it throughout. Like I feel like there was hints of Luke and Leia being siblings, even in the second.
Yes. There was. I think
in the second film, but
yeah, I think there was too.
I don't know. I'm concerned about it.
Yeah, and close second for me would be Alita: Battle Angel. That's another one where it's, and refreshingly, it's now not it's based on some anime source material, but it's not a film that we've seen before. It's not part 3. It's not conclusion. It's not a reboot of a film that was really popular in the 80s or something like that. But it's something that I've seen that feels original to me because I know nothing about it other than the trailer. And so as far as just like sci-fi eye candy and stuff, I'm looking forward to that in 2019. And I mean, all the other films that we've mentioned and stuff before. But I went into great detail last week with Lou about Captain Marvel and Endgame, so I didn't want to repeat myself. Brockett, what about 2018 really kind of spoke to you?
I misunderstood and picked up one TV show and a movie, but
that's all good. I did too.
Overall, I have to give it up to Netflix this year because I can name on 2 hands things I watched that were directly given to me only because of Netflix, whether they were sole owner of it or provided it, like because they own some, they quote unquote like have the original series for animes, but the way understood it from my friend is like they kind of are more the American distributor of them, so they don't actually fully like create them, but whatever. But they've done so many different shows that I love that my honorable mention list was so long that I pared it back and then cut some out and then tried to make things that weren't just on Netflix. But like my 2018 favorite thing I think I watched that I was both excited and moved by was The Haunting of Hill House. And I can't, I know in like a couple more months, if not already, like there's probably now counter backlash because it was so well regarded. And now I'm sure there's so many people like with The Dark Knight that have like swung the other way and now think it's like a terrible show. But like I absolutely love that series. And if honestly, and they will make more, but honestly, if they never touched it again, I also would be satisfied. It's like one of those rare things where like I both want more and I don't, because I just loved what I got so much. And I thought they also did a phenomenal job, if we never see it again, for Daredevil season 3. That's probably my 1B favorite, because both that paid off of the 2 years I watched. That was phenomenal. And I just look at both of those shows and like, wow, you know, to think when this thing launched, it was just DVDs on discs. And then we had these like high content, you know, House of Cards and Orange is the New Black. But eventually they would produce these shows that I really sadly think that if I have to choose between streaming services, like because Disney Plus is coming out and Warner Brothers is talking about doing their own and yanking all their stuff. And so I'm like, man, I'm kind of tied to Netflix, because legitimately I can name 7 shows that Netflix is going to give me. And I peeked, and I won't say it, but I've seen one of Joel's favorites. And that was another show. I completely blanked on some of the other shows they put out this year, because of course they dump and binge them. But man, oh man, I mean, it's just, I was really, really impressed with what Netflix did with TV shows this year.
Yeah, me too.
Sorry, go ahead, Megan.
No, I was gonna say, like, I love the shows that they came out with this year. Like The Good Place. I saw that Brockett, you had mentioned that on yours, on your part as well, and I loved The Good Place. I thought it was hilarious. It was one of those shows I didn't have any expectations for, but I love Kristen Bell so much, and then when I kept going with it, I was like, this is great. It's got my sense of humor in this. I was all about it. And it was one of those shows that my roommate and I sat down and watched and just couldn't stop watching. We binged the whole thing in like a couple of days.
Yeah, I watched most of the first season, if not all of the first season. I haven't returned to it, but it's one of those things where it's not that I don't like it, it's just I haven't been in the mood to watch that kind of stuff. Although I was just talking with a friend the other day about having like the shows that you absolutely want to watch, the things that you watch early evening, and you try to only watch one, but you always end up watching 2. But then also having another show where you don't care if you fall asleep watching, you know, like it's light enough and it's not plot driven. So like if you fall asleep in The Good Place, you can just go back and catch up, you know, while you do dishes or something like that. Like it's not something where, you know, like Game of Thrones, you have to be there, like paying attention the whole time, right?
You really do.
You know, especially we didn't mention this when we were talking about Game of Thrones, but the final season is 6 episodes. Starts in April.
I thought it was 8.
No, 6.
Oh shit. Okay.
So like the mayhem starts in April, because like it's probably going to be nonstop, which is fine. I don't mind them skipping the typical filler, because even in the 10 episodes they normally do, 1 or 2 of them around like episode 6 was always like, that's a little bit light. I could have gone gone with a little bit, you know, a little bit more happening.
Do you know if the episodes are going to be longer this time around though?
Probably.
Okay.
But so, and I imagine like I don't know if they're going to be like,
it's like Sherlock.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But some of them are definitely longer, and I think the finale is like feature length. Like if you put 1 or 2 of them together, like I think a couple of them hit 90 minutes or something like that. But there's also others that are shorter. They're like 55. Like they don't really push it too much. I again, like I hope they just stick to what they've been doing, which is the shows are as long as the story needs the show to be. You know, and it's one thing I really like about the specialty cable and Netflix as well, is that when a show needs to be 55 minutes or 52 or 57 or an hour and 5, like they just make it so that that's how long it is, and that's what you get. Speaking of Netflix, I've noticed, just out of habit of doing the Citadel Cafe every week, talking streaming services with Lou, and just the things that we talk about, more and more and more Netflix original series are coming up to the top of the list. Netflix is mentioned almost weekly. Like it's synonymous with watching television. When I say television, I'm more than likely talking about Netflix.
Yeah.
You know,
same.
and for me, one of their original series that blew me away this year, while not perfect, was Lost in Space. And that for me was like, it was sci-fi and fresh. Granted, yes, I know it's an existing IP, but like the other one was made in the 60s or 50s or something. Like, I mean, it's old. It's real old. So it's not like they're rebooting Battlestar Galactica for the third time, you know, having that just happen, you know, a few years ago. Like Lost in Space was ready for reintroduction. The technology and the storytelling is there. The cinematography and the world building was there. Like, it did not feel like a TV show. It felt like a film chopped up into like 10 parts or 8 parts or whatever it was. And I wasn't a big fan of the villain plot, but at the same time, it's one of those characters that you're meant to hate. So, you know, I remember Brockett, you and I were talking about this, and like, I couldn't figure out whether I disliked Parker Posey's performance or whether her performance was so good that I just hated the character, right? Like, I mean, I couldn't decide which I hated more. I think my only complaint about the whole series was that I didn't buy that these super smart scientists didn't see her coming a mile away. That was my only beef with the whole thing. But everything about it, like, I mean, to just go in there fresh, know nothing about Lost in Space, they introduce you to everything, and it has a really interesting family dynamic. Like, it breaks enough molds to be original, but still hits a lot of familiar beats for sci-fi fans and all that kind of stuff. I really, really enjoyed it. And if Netflix is going to do more stuff like that, I'm all for it. I looked briefly before the show to try and find, like, you know, upcoming on Netflix, but there's so much out there. It's just impossible to parse and really find out what things are, especially if they're only listing them by title. Like, there's just, if the title of a series doesn't tell me anything unless you have a synopsis or tell me who's in it. Like, I need something to kind of grab appeal. The only thing that's new on my list now, which technically is a 2018 release, is Mowgli, which is a feature film similar to the Jungle Book with all the animated characters.
I thought it was this unlimited series by Andy Serkis.
Maybe it's a limited series, but Andy Serkis is directing like that, and he's Gollum, right? Like, that's the guy that plays
yeah,
Gollum.
exactly. Yeah.
So I'm curious to see.
He's a guy of many talents. Jack of all trades, that man.
Yeah, I'm curious about it. It looks interesting. It's fast forwarded in time. Mowgli is returning to the jungle, and like, characters remember him, and there's a lot of different stuff. Yeah, it's pretty neat. Like,
interesting. I kind of didn't even give it a look because I'm like, it's just, you know, like Disney live action, quote unquote live action all over again.
And that's to me kind of like what it looks like, but then the story might be a little bit more original. It also looks like it's aimed slightly older. Like, Shere Khan is in it. He's in the trailer. He's on the poster. But
he's got like a walker.
He's got a limp, right? Like, he's got a broken limb, and
I didn't see him on the poster because I think you and I got different posters because Netflix.
Well, because Netflix changes their mind, like they change their underpants, and every time I open it,
they did a whole overhaul of the app on the iOS app, and it like, I'm like, how do I navigate this?
Yeah.
It looks a lot different now.
They're so weird. Like, now,
real weird.
It's their whole strip of original content that suddenly becomes like poster size on your television instead of these tiny boxes, and you're like, well, thanks, Netflix. I understand you're really excited about your shows, but like, cool it. I'm just trying to skim through. I don't need to see another like F is for family trailer. Just like, I'm trying to navigate here.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I agree. Lost in Space, when you put it on there, I had forgotten it came out this year. That, if you had asked me at that time and then the year stopped moving, probably would have been my favorite. But like, man, it just kept going, and it just kept being like, to the point where I forgot. Like, so many great things happened, I forgot, and it probably would definitely make my top 10. And Netflix would probably own 7 of my top 10 TV shows. Like, it was crazy. It was a crazy year.
Lost in Space was April. That's how long ago that was.
This year has been so long. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Wow, that's insane. I was thinking summer. Like, I thought, when did I watch that? Summertime? Like,
me too.
It was April. It was like a solid 8 to 9 months ago. Wow. Okay.
We're April, Joel, then not. So yeah, exactly. That's how crazy and long it was. Yeah.
Oh man. Anything else, Megan? I don't know if we talked about your 2018 pick, like anything that spoke to you this year. And I think that might be the
I'm
last
just
thing.
going through my notes right now and trying to see like what I found. I actually just started watching She-Ra today, and that's actually been something that I was really
it's on my
invested in.
list.
The animated She-Ra. Yeah, it's I really like it. I haven't watched enough to kind of really dig deep into it yet. I'm still kind of trying to like sift through my opinions, I guess. I mean, it's cheesy. It's hokey. Like it definitely harkens back to the original She-Ra cartoons and everything. And it's like got the whole magical girl transformation, and the theme song is, it's a theme song. But but yeah, no, I actually I think the animation style is great, and it looks really cute, and it's really diverse. It's got a really, really diverse, interesting cast, and but I think one of the shows that really stuck with me this year, and I don't know why, because I have like I think I have mixed feelings about it still, but it's the Dragon Prince. Like it's something that I still keep thinking about. And I'll go back and I'll watch like episodes of it. I think you and I talked about it really, at great length, Joel, on one of the shows, and I did really enjoy it. But I did find there were some things that just didn't quite hit home for me. But I'm hoping that's addressed in future episodes, future seasons of it. Yeah. And I can't, not mention anything Rooster Teeth related. So like this new season of Ruby that's out right now is stellar, and that's all I'll say about it. It's like the best one they've done.
I still need to go watch that. I'm so behind.
My friend recommended it too. Yeah.
It's hard to get into. Like the first two seasons are really hard to get into because it was, a small studio, small budget, Poser Pro, like really, really, like it was like a beginner animation team who started it out. And they were kind of riding on the fact that it looked unique, it had a unique storyline. They were kind of trusting their already pre-established fans who are already fans of Red versus Blue to kind of stick with it. But once they kind of got past into season 3, like the end of season 3 is kind of where really things kick up. Like it kind of turns the intensity up to like 11, and then this has just turned it up to like 20. This season that they've come up with right now, because season 5 everyone was separated and now they're all back together, and there's so much like character development that I didn't think we'd ever get to see, and I am over the moon about it. I'm so happy with it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I will say I feel like even in shows like my wife kind of makes fun of me for this, but like on our Netflix queues, we use my wife's for generic, like whatever we watch together, essentially. But my queue is so loaded with scary or cartoons, or sometimes scary cartoons. But like I'm really impressed by even like you've mentioned She-Ra, but like a few years back, one of my friends turned me on to Gravity Falls, which only had 2 seasons, but was like incredibly like fun and like.
I love Gravity Falls. It's so good.
The layers, yeah, like the layers to like children's television shows are incredibly complex and fantastic, and I have not seen it yet, but just the presence of something like Steven Universe, today's climate, which I've heard deals with some very important things for children growing up, from everything from like gender identity to like consent and all these sort of things, like how it permeates shows, and you can still get tremendous things. Like I just remember like it used to feel like Batman the Animated Series was like above everything else, like around it. And then like there was the Nickelodeon cartoons, and then they started to pick up, and then like I remember Avatar: The Last Airbender, and like all these
that's
things.
like still my top to this day.
Yeah.
I met someone who's watching it for the first time, and I was like, I wish I could go back and like experience it all again from the very beginning, having never experienced it before, because I think it would still blow my mind. I think that's kind of like, I would say it's like the flagship game changer cartoon, I would say, because it has a lot of depth, and it didn't feel like one of those money grabs where it was like, oh, we're just gonna have a show, we're gonna have a crazy show. It had a clear defined story, a clear defined plot. Even some of the fillers had a lot of character dimension to them. I was talking about it at work with a friend, and even like they even make fun of themselves in the whole Ember Island Players episode. where they're like, oh look, the Great Divide, and then that's all they say about it. Like they just kind of keep going, because that episode is something you can basically skip over. But that was like, I think a really the type of animated show that I think people need to aspire to, for sure.
Yeah.
Was Avatar.
Yeah.
Yeah,
How do you guys feel about Netflix doing a live action series?
I don't know.
I'm very scared.
Me too. I mean, I'm a little less scared knowing that creators of the original are kind of helming it.
Yeah.
But that movie that doesn't actually exist. But if there was a movie that was directed by M. Night Shyamalan, I'm worried I'd be like that.
Yeah.
There isn't one, thankfully. But if there was, I'd be like that.
I think with those things that don't exist, at least Netflix can be aware that they don't exist and aware that people appreciate that they don't exist and can move forward from there. I think too that with the Netflix involvement with Dragon Prince, and one of the writers on Avatar: The Last Airbender was one of the creators of Dragon Prince. I think I'm remembering that right.
I think so.
Then I think that would be that to me shows promise. Again, like it's hard because all the images you see online are just somebody photoshopping something that looks terrible, or unfortunately grabbing something from a movie that does not exist and putting it at the top of the article, merely because that movie that doesn't exist gets mentioned as a comparison, and then your brain just kind of goes to like, ugh, for people that were wondering, the episode of the Citadel Cafe that we talked about the Dragon Prince was 288. You can go back and check out that. I'm pretty sure we also did like an extended cut of that. Megan, do you remember if we did like a longer?
I don't know. We've done a lot of shows together.
There are a few cuts over the years with Megan and some other people. Pixel Riffs, my friend Johnny as well. On the Patreon page, we've done some extra cuts, and actually, while I'm talking about it, the Patreon page is actually the place where you can go to support the show. If you head over to patreon.com/the Citadel Cafe, then you can look at some of the rewards there. Anybody that decides to become a member of the Citadel Cafe gets access to the patron-only Discord. You also get access to those extra cuts that I mentioned. We call them barista cuts, and they're essentially just extra audio things we either don't get to talk about on the show, or we're just so excited to talk about them that we end up talking for like an extra hour or something like that, extra 40 minutes. And I clipped that out and I put it up there for patrons. And I just wanted to thank everybody that is a patron. We are sitting at 14 patrons for December. I still have a few more days to see if we can't make that 15 before the new year. But I wanted to say thanks because it is the reason that the show is still going. You guys pay the bills, and I really appreciate all the people that listen and all the people that support the show on Patreon. And that's patreon.com/the Citadel Cafe. I don't have an internet pick. I decided to do something a little bit different. I honestly have been talking about this so much. I don't know if I mentioned it last week on the Citadel Cafe, but I am playing on a new Minecraft server. It's called the Realm of Vastin. And one of the friends that I've made there, his name is Klautos on the server. His sister, Jennifer Harper, has unfortunately been diagnosed with a brain tumor. And we did a charity stream this past Sunday to help raise money through her GoFundMe page, which is put together by one of her coworkers, to help her and her family deal with this very expensive, very risky brain surgery that's happening either today or tomorrow, I think. So she's probably going to be in the hospital through till Christmas Day. If everything goes well, she gets discharged Christmas Day. So keep your fingers crossed. But the GoFundMe page, we raised a little over $600, maybe $800 on Sunday night when we were streaming and playing some Minecraft. So that's been fantastic. I've mentioned it a number of times on different podcasts. I know that other members of the Realm of Vastin have as well. They are currently up over $6,000. And when I checked a week ago, they were just over $4,000. So it's getting there.
Good.
Yeah. So things are looking up.
Great.
So if you are all inclined, you can check out gofundme.com/support for Jennifer Harper. And there's dashes between the words. I'll have the link in the show notes. I've tweeted it out over the last week or so too. Pretty easy to find. But check that out. But that is it for this episode of the Citadel Cafe, and that is it for the Citadel Cafe for 2018. You can find more about the show and some of the links that I talked about, as well as all the other things that we talked about on the show at thecitadelcafe.com. Music for the show was composed by Kevin MacLeod. Email the show at thecitadelcafe@gmail.com or find us by name on Twitter and Facebook. The podcast is, of course, available on your favorite podcast app. That includes iTunes, Android, Stitcher, and Spotify. And, one of the best ways to spread the word about the show is just by poking a friend in the arm and saying, hey, this is good. You should listen to it. We're still, I mean, even after 300 episodes, there's always room to grow. So if you want to recommend the show to some friends and get us out there even farther, then I would very much appreciate it. My name is Joel Duggan. You can find everything I am up to online at joelduggan.com. That includes my illustration design portfolio. I do podcasts, I do art, I do streaming. It's all linked from there. It's all super, super simple. Megan, where can people find you and the stuff that you're doing online?
People can find me online on Twitter and Instagram and at Megan Townsend. And they can follow my personal project, The Heir of Keldanan, again on Instagram.
Brockett, where about you?
At DCatVolver, BBotV23 on Insta. And I want to shout out to all the boys I've loved before. That was my favorite movie of the year in 2018.
Oh, yes.
And I would have never thought that I'd be saying that, but just throwing that out there.
Mine too. Watch it. It's actually
Happy
really
300.
good.
Happy
Nice.
300, by the way.
Thanks, man. Well. Thanks, man. I love the last shot at the end. That's perfect. You can find Ryan over at thegamersinpodcast.com. I think that's the website, or at R Murphy on Twitter. And Lou is at Busy Zombie Lord. Both of them do Zamp, Zombies Ate My Podcast. So thanks to those guys for stopping by as well. 300 episodes in the can, folks. You've been listening to the Citadel Cafe, where we are fast, easy, and cheap, but you can only pick 2.